This video is going to talk about just some very basic ways to invest in real estate and stocks and ways to save money while you're doing it. So the low risk passive income formula is my favorite way of investing in real estate. And so what you want to do is when you go and purchase a home, you want to make sure that you always buy with 20% down to keep your mortgage lower than your rental rate. If 20% doesn't cut it, then you're going to need to do more, but it's pretty low risk if you can keep your mortgage lower than your rental rates. Rental rates don't tend to decrease too much, but they could. I've noticed in the past probably 10 years that I've been doing this that they've increased, not lowered. So it just kind of depends. There are times when you have to decrease them. So it's good to have that cushion in there. But with the 20% down and purchasing something already with the mortgage being lower than the rental rate, I think you're starting at a pretty safe spot. And then, so one of the things I like to do is to live in a home first and then move out. You don't have to do that. You could just go and buy an investment property, but you do tend to get an owner-occupied rate, which is at least 1% lower if you occupy it first and then move out. So that's a lot of moving out, and we've done a lot of that. But you can keep your old home, and then you're going to purchase a new one that you're going to move into. And then you rent your old home for a few years, and then after you've had it for a while, you can sell it or keep it. You can decide which way works best for you. You can sell your home after a few years and you can pay down on your primary residence. Sometimes you can pay it off or pay down, or you can use the money to do something else. And the other option is to let your renters keep paying your mortgage. And I tend to pocket about $100 to $200 a month per home. That's kind of the minimum. There's more money that I've been able to make in the past as well. And then you'll just want to repeat the cycle and keep purchasing homes and keep renting them and build a few that way. And from just a few homes, it's a great retirement, because once you've owned them for a while, like after 30 years or 15 years, depending on which kind of mortgage you're getting, you're able to keep that rent. And after expenses, you could probably estimate on a house that you're going to make $800 on a house after expenses or something after you get your rent. And so that's a really good retirement. If you have, say, 10 of those homes, by the time you retire, you could be making $8,000. If you have less, then maybe $4,000 if you have 5. But that's something that you can actually quantify and see. And that's why real estate is my favorite thing, because the values always seem to exist in the fact that you're going to be able to get the rent for those homes after you've paid them off. But you do want to keep 6-month reserve for every rental, or you want to earn enough money to pay for all mortgages. I think that the worst case scenario for me has been when I had to evict someone and I had to spend about $3,000 on replacing carpet and doing different things like that. And I've had an AC go out and I had to spend $3,000. And when you have a few homes, you could have a few things happening at once. So a 6-month reserve is really safe. I don't think you actually have to have it, but again, we're talking about a way to minimize your risk. And so if you have that, that's wonderful that you have it. The other thing is that if you earn enough money, you could just know that you have enough money to pay for any of these expenses when they come about. Or if you happen to have a renter that you have a month that one of the homes isn't rented, then you have enough money from your paycheck to pay for that. Most of the time, and I've been through the whole bubble, I haven't had too many vacancies since then. And so most of the time you'll be able to keep them rented unless you're in a really bad area or something's wrong with the home. But if you keep your rental rates low enough, you'll normally be able to get those rented. Okay, so as far as stocks, a lot of things could be said about stocks, and I'm just going to give you a very basic information to help you know how to invest in stocks. One of the things, most people are already investing into something, but one of the things that I think is really important to remember is to start early. I've got a story that I pulled out from a book of a 16-year-old who saves $2,000 annually for 6 years. He can retire at 69 with $1 million, and he doesn't have to invest anything else after those 6 years to have that $1 million. If you get started in your 30s or late 40s, you're going to have to invest probably till you finish retiring to get that kind of a return. And so starting as early as possible is always very important. And one of the things that I think is very noteworthy to say is that you have to be careful of the fees that you're paying in the investments that you have, because the fees can really add up. And so the average mutual fund can charge 1.4% annually, or there could be no load mutual funds and some, can charge 0.18% annually. It just depends. You just have to see where you're at and what you're being charged annually. And then, for instance, a $250 monthly contribution at 8% for 35 years is going to look like this at the end of that time if you paid a 1% more, or 1.2% more, or whatever. So you've got to be careful. That's an extra $139,000 about that you could be having extra if you watch your fees. And these are just some ideas of where you can go and research to see who charges the least. You can look up Fidelity 4-in-1 Index Fund, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, and then Schwab Total Stock Market Index Fund. You can look up ETFs, look up Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Scottrade Fund, TD Ameritrade, and Vanguard. The Schwab Total Stock Market Index Fund charges only 0.04% per year. And then you've got Schwab has an S&P 500 index fund that the expense ratio is a 0.03%, and it has no load, so that's the only fee you're going to pay. You've got to be careful because expense ratios are not always advertised and you don't even know you're paying them. So while you think you're only paying a mutual fund fee, you always want to be able to ask whoever you're trading with and ask them what the expense ratio is of what you own. Stocks also can trade for $5, or I think they're $4.95 right now at Schwab. And so this is just plain stocks. If you're doing the index funds, they don't have a per trade fee, but these are just things that you can go and price match. If you can find something cheaper elsewhere, then do it. If you can't, then go here. And I hope this gives you some ideas of things to watch out for. There's a lot more in depth that you can go into investing in real estate or stocks, but this is just something to get you started and make sure that you're not paying a lot of fees and that you're able to have a lot more money in the end.